if we were just listing it as a 4-bedroom home, it was a nice $350,000, $400,000 house in a really nice neighborhood.
Your opportunity is knocking. The home of the White family from the iconic TV series Breaking Bad is officially on the market.
The intrinsic value of the home was its pop culture status.
I've had lots of amazing agents on this show. You're the first one who's been to the Titanic and sold the Breaking Bad house.
I think that Hollywood storytelling is something every agent can use if they open their mind to it.
The Titanic mission is a bit of a metaphor for that as well. Like, you've been to the bottom.
I literally had lost it all. I mean, there was no recovery.
Welcome to Thought Leaders. My guest today sold the Breaking Bad house, but that's not even his most interesting story. He's one of less than 200 people on Earth to dive 12,800 feet to the wreck of the Titanic. David Christensen is a former Hollywood executive turned powerhouse luxury agent who has been to rock bottom and rebuilt his life from scratch. His story is all about turning your second act into your masterpiece. Stick around to the end of this podcast and here are 3 lessons that you'll learn. Number 1, the $4 million reframe, how he took a modest $350,000 house and strategically listed it for just under $4 million by finding its unique pop culture value. Number 2, the Hollywood crossover, the single most important skill David learned from the high ego world of managing music talent that he uses every single day in real estate. And number 3, the comeback, how to rebuild after hitting rock bottom and use that experience to find your purpose and fuel your success. This episode is a masterclass in storytelling and resilience. So David, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Happy to be here.
Thank you. Oh, I've got to say, your bio is one of a kind. I've had lots of amazing agents on this show, but you're the first one who's been to the Titanic and sold the Breaking Bad house. So maybe let's start there. Let's start with the Breaking Bad house, actually. This was a global media event. How did that listing even come to you?
I was in the entertainment industry for about 20 years prior to getting into real estate. And during that course, I met a lot of wonderful people, did business with a lot of wonderful people. And one of those particular people was a guy named Ryan Johnston, who was big in advertising and promotion. And he happened to live in Albuquerque and over the years became friendly with the family that owned the home that they shot Breaking Bad in. And they had shared with him over the years that eventually, they would want to sell it. And he was very kind and said, when you do that, I have the guy that I think could do a great job for you. So that was how the introduction came to be. And then obviously we flew out to Albuquerque a couple of different times and talked to them about kind of how we intended to bring it to market and what we thought would make it special. And really had a fun time telling that story and bringing that narrative to the world.
Yeah, so for agents that might be listening, I actually want to bring this story to life. So this Breaking Bad house, it's like Carrie Bradshaw's stoop in New York City.
Yeah.
Like a modest ranch house, and Zillow said maybe $350,000 or
Correct.
something like that US. So maybe 500,000 in our money.
Yes.
But you listed it for just under $4 million. And you even told the New York Times that you knew that a family of 4 was not the buyer.
Sure.
Which, brilliant reframe. So take us inside that strategy session.
Sure. So when we first met with the family, we knew very quickly that we had to build a narrative that was not based on just a 4-bedroom home. Like you said, if we were just listing it as a 4-bedroom home, it was a nice $350,000, $400,000 house in a really nice neighborhood. The intrinsic value of the home was its pop culture status. Breaking Bad, if you're a fan or not, was one of, if not the most watched series in modern history and had a cult following. And that particular home was getting upwards of 300 cars per day driving by the home to take a picture. So what we decided to do is we met with the city and we said, there's already this traffic and this interest and this tourism bump from this home. We want to present this to an investor or a company that would have some expertise in a high-end Airbnb experience or a museum. And so we thought if a company like that was to be involved, the amount of money that that entity would produce would support the price tag that we brought it to market. And that's exactly what we did. We knew that we weren't going to get like I said, the family of four, but investors were very interested in the property and from that angle.
Yeah. So how did that change the way that you approach the marketing? I mean, because, like when I think about marketing a real estate home, we write the listing copy, take some photos, maybe drones,
Yeah.
So like take me through, was it like, given your Hollywood background, was it like the true Hollywood blockbuster, or how did you
Sure.
approach that?
So, great question. We did a couple different things, and we had a couple unique challenges. One, we had to protect the privacy of the family who was still living there. We had to take security into mind because they were already getting so much traffic that we knew once it was put out globally that the house was available, that was just going to increase that. So we had to do that. What we did is we built a very extensive website that went into talking about the home. And we also did quite a bit of homework on what the pro forma would be for an investor if they were to use it in that capacity. I was very blessed that a lot of my background in the entertainment industry happened to deal with museums and attractions and some of those things. So I had a sensibility of what I thought that would be. And we knew the investor was going to ask that question right out of the gate. How do I justify this expensive? And so we probably did a lot more homework than you might do on a typical, colonial in a cul-de-sac, right? So that we could give them that information. And we spent quite a bit of time prior to going to market to build that relationship with the community and the city so that we could show them that there'd be some value to them.
Do you know what happened? Like, have they turned it into a museum, and have all of those things happened?
So right now we're kind of actually in the final negotiation standpoint, because if you imagine the complexity of this, right? Finding the investor that had the funds was only step one. Then it was a matter of negotiating with the city and the community to get some variances to allow this kind of property in a residential neighborhood. And that's the stage that we're in right now. We're confident that we're going to get those sign-offs on, but it's a long and arduous process because you want the city to buy in, and you also want to be very respectful of the neighbors and to be able to show them how this is actually a win for them, because now there's some guardrails and some professionalism to what's happening, as opposed to it being a little bit of a free-for-all, and so that's really been kind of the biggest part of the hurdle.
I'm imagining the vendors are quite happy.
Oh, very much so. Yeah, very much so.
And I get that every property has a story, but that was, like a spectacular reframe. How do you look at properties when it comes to, like, just an average property when it comes to marketing? Is it still the Hollywood background that comes to the forefront of your thinking, or
Sure.
is it something every agent can use?
Well, I think that Hollywood storytelling is something every agent can use if they open their mind to it. I was just it was in my DNA because I did it for so long. So anytime I look at a home, I'm saying, okay, if this was an album or a movie and I was trying to bring it to market, who is my audience and what is the best way to frame this so somebody might pay attention? So I just naturally take that thought process when looking at a house. But you said it best, right? Every home has a story, and I really try to instill that in agents that I work with, or if I'm giving a keynote or something, is to find what is unique and different about that property, what's special about it. And again, whether it's a ranch or a multi-million-dollar home, every house has something special to it. And if you do enough of the homework, you can also see in a market where the gaps are, right? Where you might be able to say something different or fresh or unique that your competitors are not, because in any industry, we can tend to get lazy, right? And we can tend to be kind of regurgitating. And you see that in the real estate industry. So I always try to be thoughtful about, is there an angle or a way to present this that might be fresh?
So I'm going to come back to the Titanic in a moment, because
Sure.
that's fascinates me. But let's talk about your real estate business for just 1 second.
Yeah.
So the Christensen Group, I mean, my research said over 150 million in real estate, but that's probably more by now. What
Luckily,
does
yes.
your business? Yeah, yeah. So what does your business actually look like day to day?
Sure. So I'm licensed in 3 different states. The core of my business is in New England. So we're in New Hampshire, Massachusetts, and Maine. We sell all types of real estate, but we special a little bit in high end, some of the coastal stuff. I have a handful of phenomenal agents that work directly and collaborate directly with me here at Christensen Group. And the day to day is really probably very similar to a lot of agents. It's about making sure there's stuff in the pipeline, making sure that we are giving white glove service to our clients, whether it happens to be that, starter home or it happens to be a $2 million executive home. One of the things that my crew will say that I say repeatedly is, again, luxury is a feeling. It's a way of treating somebody. It's not about the price point, right? And so we really want to make sure that anybody across that spectrum is feeling that way. I'm a big fan of the book Raving Fans, or there's a phenomenal book called about hospitality, and basically the concept of everybody deserves that just unwavering approach to giving them the best and that white glove treatment. And so that's really a big part of what we do.
Is that the Will Gadira book? Is that
It is.
that one?
That's exactly
Yeah,
right.
yeah. He's
Yeah.
amazing. I actually saw
Yeah.
him speak
He's,
once. Like,
I did too last year. He was unbelievable. Highly recommend. Yeah.
and so you're with EXP, and EXP are here in Australia as well. So tell me what your team looks like. Are you still about the transactions, or are you more about developing the people coming up into your team?
I would say that it's pretty 50-50. I love selling real estate. So a huge part of what we do is the production and sale of real estate. I love working with people. I love that kind of hands-on. And I think I'm more useful to people, even on the attraction side, if my business is a fully producing business. However, the attraction thing has grown well. We have 5 agents that are my core Christensen Group agents right here in New England, but we've got 100 agents nationwide that are a part of our organization that we've naturally attracted through relationships and kind of being out there in the world. And that's been really exciting. Yeah.
So let's rewind back to the first act. I'm using this first act, second act because of the Hollywood
Sure.
thing. So
Sure. I love it.
You're in LA.
Yes.
You're at Warner Brothers Records, and you're even co-managing artists with Randy Jackson, who we all know as, the famous line from American Idol, "It's a bit pitchy dog." Like,
That's exactly right.
I don't know if I said that right or not.
Yeah.
But
You did beautifully.
like I was actually a big fan of Randy. Actually, on
He's a wonderful
his
human
time.
being.
Yeah, his time. He always seemed to be the one that was like. Spoke the most sense or something, I don't know, without the emotion. But anyway, if you had to pick one skill you learned in that sort of high stakes, I'm going to say high ego world. I mean, not that real estate's not high ego, right?
Yeah.
But that you use every single day as an agent, what would it be?
I would say it's patience and listening. Really, a lot of times, we all have an ego and everybody wants to hear the sound of their own voice. But I think one of the biggest takeaways, certainly from my time in the industry, was you have to be a good listener, right? Our job was to be a steward for their creative vision. And as real estate agents, our job is to be a steward for our client, for the sale of their home or the purchase of where they're going to have their family live. And I think, really making sure we're paying attention to what it is that's inspiring them or motivating them is so critical to having a great outcome.
And now the Titanic. So you were media director for the 2005 expedition, and you went 12,800 feet down in a Russian sub.
Yes.
And you knew that if you got stuck, there was no chance of a rescue. What is going through your head for 10 hours in that tiny sub?
Well, luckily, I'm very scared of heights, but for some reason, I wasn't as scared of the depths. I mean, we certainly knew, all kidding aside, that it was very dangerous and that there was really no recovery mechanism. but we were excited about it. It was something that, I never thought I would have an opportunity to do. And I had such great respect for the expedition leader and the people that I was doing it with that I think that alleviated some of the fear, and that adrenaline of what you were about to experience certainly took over.
How did it feel when you got out of it?
It's funny. A lot of people ask me, what was it like to dive the Titanic? What was it like when you got to the ocean floor and you saw the bow of the ship? And we tend to focus on that, which was an amazing experience, once in a lifetime. But what I often share is that the time on the surface of the ocean, being on that vessel above where the shipwreck was, we were there for 10 days, and imagining yourself being under the same stars, the same moon, looking out over the water and imagining those lifeboats there and the tragedy and trauma that was happening. That was really, to be quite frank, the more emotional and moving part. And I think about that far more than I do the actual tour of the wreck. And I did not anticipate that at all. But being there really was very, very moving.
It's a powerful image. You're 2.5 miles down at the bottom of the ocean in the dark under all that pressure. I think that's a metaphor for a couple of things you've been through. Number one was you've been so incredibly generous about your story and your own bio talks, from going from Hollywood success to, like a personal collapse. You've even suggested that the stress of real estate leads people to do things that aren't terribly healthy. And so you've actually said that sobriety's made you a better agent. If you're open to us, can you take us to that moment and, what did it feel like?
I was very blessed. I had a phenomenal career in Los Angeles, everything that this, young kid from a small town in New Hampshire ever dreamed of. So on paper, it looked phenomenal. But one of the things that I recognized fairly quickly, as all those things on paper came to be, that emptiness was just so glaring, and the pressure was so glaring, and the balance was so out of whack that for me, and I imagine like a lot of other people, I turned to alcohol thinking it was going to be a very comfortable mechanism to relax and navigate the stresses of life, like millions of people do. And for me, it wasn't that way. And in fairly short order, all those wonderful things that I had built disappeared. And I'm very, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, I'm very grateful that it happened, because it caused me to rebuild my life in a way that was shaped differently. And that doesn't mean that I don't have stress, and it doesn't mean that I don't struggle. But I'm, almost 15 years sober now. And I do know that my happiness, my joy does not come from my bank balance or from an accolade. I'm super happy when they occur, and I'm very grateful. It allows us to be generous in ways that I wouldn't be able to be if we didn't have success. But it's a completely different reframe when your soul is not dependent upon those things. And I never talked about it until last year. I didn't hide it. If you were my friend and you knew me, you would know my story, but it wasn't something I wore on my sleeve. And I was on a podcast with a colleague that I really just revere. And he said this line about making the invisible visible. And it just struck me that, my story, my journey might help somebody else that was struggling, but concerned that they couldn't get to the other side, or maybe shameful about it. And I thought, this is crazy. I've been so blessed in so many ways that it really just became a top priority this last year to be more open and vocal about it in any way that I could lend some thought on it.
The
I was
Titanic mission is a bit of a metaphor for that as well. Like, you've been to the bottom and come back up again. Yes. And I mean, a lot of us have those stories. I mean, I even have one of my own, which I'm not going to bore you with today. But what did your day one of your turnaround look like?
I literally had lost it all. I mean, no exaggeration. I had, a month prior, been in Los Angeles at James Cameron's house for a private dinner for people who had dove Titanic. I was at the height of it all, and over some series of events, the bottom just fell out. And I really believed for a period of time that there was no recovery, that this was just impossible to turn around. And something happens when it's all gone, right? And sometimes it happens for people in a year. Sometimes it takes people a long time. For me, that epiphany came fairly quickly, that if I didn't really make an effort to right the ship and put myself in a scenario where I had better statistical odds of winning, that this was not going to end well. And so I made a decision to not try to rebuild that life. I made a decision to go home to New Hampshire, where I had family and I had people that loved me, whether I was on the mountaintop or I was at the depths of hell. They loved me, and it was during the course of that year that I was able to kind of rebuild. And I had some very, very close friends and my significant other of 15 years now, and they all rallied around me. And she said to me, "Look, the skills that you used in the music business are phenomenal skills in the real estate business, right? It's about understanding people. It's about storytelling. It's about negotiating. All these things that were my day-to-day life really did apply to real estate." And so, as corny as it is, I had this village of people around me that believed that I could reinvent. And that's exactly what happened.
And so I guess that brings me to what, you mentioned you wanted to focus on today, which was leadership, culture, and mindset.
Yes.
So it's very clear to me from, the other podcasts that you've been on that I've listened to and things like that, your reinvention is not just about a new job, but finding a new purpose. So tell me a little bit about that.
I think for me, anytime that I meet somebody, whether it's an agent that's come to work with us, or it's a staff member, or it's somebody that I may be mentoring in some capacity, I think we can get so focused on the technical, right? There's a million playbooks, there's a million coaches that are phenomenal at what they do. I'm not taking any of that away, but can get very focused on the tactile, technical part of how do we sell real estate, right? And at the end of the day, if we don't understand why we want to sell real estate, or what makes us tick, or what are those emotional speed bumps in our makeup that keep us from succeeding or not succeeding, all of the technical stuff is really kind of just a wash. And, I've, for better or for worse, I've followed Tony Robbins for 20 plus years and been involved a lot with his stuff, and Brendan Bouchard and a lot of those people, because I'm just a firm believer that how you protect your mind and your thought process is just critical to everything. Because the other side of it is, again, like my previous story, if you don't protect that, you actually might win and get everything you ever dreamed of and be completely miserable, right? So it's almost one of those things where they have to go in parallel. Obviously, you have to be a skilled person at your job, but that understanding of why you're doing it is so important. So I kind of dig deep with that, and I really motivate or try to inspire anybody that's kind of in my circle to not look at that as kind of a corny afterthought, but really as the crux of what makes them human and what makes them or will make them successful.
You've actually just, while we were off air, you were talking to me about your new venture into sports and entertainment real estate.
Yes.
So tell me how you are thinking about that and defining, well, this is the two worlds coming together, isn't it? This is like Hollywood, entertainment, real estate.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
I mean, I'm like a 12-year-old at Christmas. I'm just so excited, right? And I got to give props to our leadership team at EXP, right? So I had always dreamed that there would be this moment in my career where that 20 plus years in the entertainment industry could really run alongside what I was doing in real estate. And so over the last year behind the scenes, we had been developing this sports and entertainment division, which is a subset of our luxury division. And it's really put together as a very white glove experience for those clients that are career oriented in sports or entertainment. They have a very discerning taste. Their schedules are very specific. The way they operate through the world is very unique. And so we've created a division that really speaks to those needs. And it's been an opportunity for me to take those relationships that I had in the entertainment industry and some of those experiences and now provide a service that's really geared to that community. And so we just launched the sports entertainment division in Miami at our big conference 2 weeks ago. And we're really excited about it.
For agents that might be listening, I mean, this is you niching down into, like, you know, what your key strengths and background is. If you're an agent right now, and you know, I sort of feel like, you know, this is becoming more and more prevalent, not just with sports and entertainment, but I think you've got to have like a demographic or an audience or something like that so that it becomes easier to market to them. So when you think about your branding, your marketing materials, and all of that sort of thing, how are they tailored directly to that market?
We start again with it about the feeling. It's about the feeling of luxury. It's about the feeling of attention to detail, right? Because I think that is universal. Whether I'm trying to sell a $4 million house to somebody on the New England Patriots and a starter home, I want them to feel like they're getting the same. Granted, when we're talking about specific marketing techniques, if I'm going after a specific clientele, those marketing products are going to look different. They're going to be very specific to that audience. And we spent a lot of time, we just kind of released them last week, going over what would those products look like? What would that messaging look like? And so what I would say to other agents is, again, figure out what's special to you, what's unique to you in your marketplace, and speak to that, and do everything with the highest of quality. I mean, you know, just to rant for a minute, you know, one of the things that I think has given the real estate industry, unfortunately, a bad name is that because for a time it was like shooting fish in a barrel, right? The markets were so swift and there was so much activity that you really could be operating at a C+ level and moving product, right? It's much more competitive now. And my feeling is, if you're going to ask somebody to give you $10, $15, $20, $30,000 as a commission, you owe them the job of doing phenomenal marketing, whether that's professional photography or video or thoughtful marketing support or all those extras that sometimes get left by the wayside. And to me, I've never looked at those as an extra. Those are the price of admission. To me, if you're going to be a real estate agent and you want to be taken seriously, there's a certain requirement, whether it's legally required or it's just ethically required, to deliver any client with that level of support.
Well, David, it's been a pleasure to meet you. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story, which has been, we've been everywhere today.
I've loved every second of it. You're absolutely lovely, and I appreciate you having me on.